Hi, everyone. My name is Sara. I'm the Healing and Community Justice Director here at Centro Multicultural La Familia. I use she, her, they, them, or ella pronouns. And this summer, we had the opportunity to bring in Welcoming America into the Funds to Foster Belonging program. So Centro is located here in Pontiac, Michigan. We're about 30 minutes outside of Detroit. And that connection is super important. And Centro, as an organization, has existed for several decades now. We provide services to everyone, but we really focus in on the Latinx community, and providing culturally competent support services to families, really bringing in the language access piece, trauma-informed care. A lot of our clients and people who come to our community center are immigrants, refugees, asylum seekers, survivors of domestic and sexual violence. And so a lot of the youth that were in this program with us are maybe survivors themselves, were children of survivors, were immigrants themselves, were members of our local community. And so like contextually, it's really important to think about Pontiac being within 30 minutes from the big city of Detroit, but then also in a location where maybe youth and public arts or placemaking hasn't been necessarily a priority. And so we wanted to really like bridge that gap. We wanted to provide both services for youth, but also opportunities to engage in creativity, in mental emotional well-being. And so that leads us to kind of our biggest objective was to bring together Latina youth or Latinx youth and U.S. born youth living here in Pontiac, but also in Oakland County, from different economic backgrounds, but really just through art, and coming together. And so especially in a city with, and I'm, looking over my city, but in a city where the context around gentrification is super high, a lot of folks feel pushed out of the downtown area. We had the opportunity to paint a mural here in our downtown community. That's the largest mural of its kind painted by youth here in downtown Pontiac. And so we worked with about 15 youth and different community programs. And so we had mutual aid organizers, we had leaders from different initiatives in the community, we had parents support us throughout the summer. But all of our youth identify as youth of color, and our muralists as well. Our two artists are members of the LGBTQ community, as were several of our staff and youth as well. And so bringing together just inclusion, belonging, but also just more visibility within an art space, within a downtown youth program. And so many things went well. I mean, aside from just our beautiful mural, we felt like with our skills as often the biggest group of us were, we had social work experience, mental health experience, that it was really easy for us to then identify our collective expectations, our fears, our doubts, check for understanding, get clarity, and build community. The community feedback was key. We really wanted this mural to be entirely designed by youth, which was sometimes daunting when we had just a blank big piece of paper in front of them and we were like, okay, what do you want to see? What do you want to see in your city? What do you want to pick to represent yourself and how you envision Pontiac and how you envision what togetherness looks like? And so in this next video, you'll see a little clip of the mural. You'll see the youth kind of, some of them wanted to put their silhouettes in the mural, so to literally put themselves in the mural, and used broken up pieces of CDs that were donated from a free media project. And what that does is it allows for reflection. So quite literally the reflection off of the CDs, but also just reflection in when you look at the mural that's about community and belonging, then you are also then reflected in that when looking at it. So what surprised us? Really what we loved were just the little stories we would overhear between muralists and first generation youth. there was definitely a difference between the connection amongst muralists and first generation youth versus youth who've been here for generations, or whose family is from this community. And so then when we picked the concept of our mural, when we picked what togetherness looks like, what belonging means, the language, the collective language that was created through the reflection of the CDs and everybody getting to choose colors that they felt like represented their emotions in the moment, and who they were, was really beautiful. When we were painting the mural, in the process, there were so many times where folks would just drive past the mural and ask us what we were up to, and seek services once we told them a little bit more about ourselves. It felt like we were creating almost that, equal status, or like that collaboration within not just the youth, but within the community around us. There were some times where we would have to stencil the mural late at night, and so we would notice when community members were checking in on us and protecting us, because they would come by and say, hey, I saw somebody, last night working on the mural. I just wanted to make sure it was you. And we would be like, yes, that was us. I know it was probably 1 a.m., but we were there. So that was really beautiful. And some of the barriers, just Michigan gets very cold, but we also had a really hot summer. So summer heat and timing was tricky. Our muralists only spoke Spanish primarily, and so we did have to step in a lot in terms of engaging other youth who didn't speak Spanish, engaging community members who didn't speak Spanish, and vice versa. And so this, we feel, was a good barrier that we encountered, because it helped us figure out how to move through conflict and challenge together. And so, as I mentioned, a lot of us work within the field of violence prevention and mental health. And so these were really, really important kind of community building tools to think in mind, just the safety, the fear, overall how we want to create relationships. I think that art is always a creative tool for connection and expression. And I think that's something that many youth don't always have the outlets to do, especially what we notice in urban areas, when art and music programs are some of the first ones to get cut due to funding. And so to be able to then think from a trauma-informed perspective, what these youth aren't experiencing because they're not engaging with their hands or colors or getting paint all over them, that can be a collaborative, connecting experience for people. And so for us, that's why this trauma-informed care model is always really important in anything that we do, from survivor support or youth programming, is thinking about all of these things, thinking about why youth might feel unsure of themselves as young artists, why youth might feel like they don't see themselves in their environment, why youth may or may not speak up about the ideas that they want to see on a mural, and then how all of that, I guess, ties in with how they connect and what happens through that connection. If we had to do it all over again, I think our mural would look probably similar, but it would have been really good to get to know each other beforehand. One of our youth programs also does kind of a camping trip up north, and we get to invite out youth from Pontiac who haven't explored parts of Michigan outside of their local community. And so it would have been really nice to have a kind of togetherness and bonding beforehand, not just throughout the mural process. And in this last video, you'll all kind of see how the mural turned out at night. It's a really beautiful view. So we call that Supernova, Centro Multicultural. That's what the youth call it. And our biggest next steps are just to spread the word. Oakland County just became a welcoming city. That's where Pontiac is located in. And so we definitely have plans to keep making murals as long as we can, and as long as we have the youth who have that drive. If anyone has any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me. You can stop by in person and I'll give you a personal tour of our mural. But that is all I have for folks today.